gonna ride with Jesus Christ. Round up your friends, we're on a quest. We're heading out in the wild, wild west. Just like folks in olden days, we're gonna follow God together. Jesus Christ is the same, yesterday, today, and forever. Let's all meet at the Sun-West Roundup. Stomp your feet and shout, yeehaw! Saddle up for the Sun-West Roundup. We're gonna ride, we're gonna ride. Bring your friends to the Sun-West Roundup. Grab your hat and shout, yeehaw! Get along to the Sun-West Roundup. We're gonna ride, we're gonna ride, we're gonna ride with Jesus Christ. Yeehaw! Come on now. We're gonna ride, we're gonna ride with Jesus Christ. Round up your friends, we're on a quest. We're heading out in the wild, wild west. Just like folks in olden days, we're gonna follow God together. Jesus Christ is the same, yesterday, today, and forever. Let's all meet at the Sun-West Roundup. Stomp your feet and shout, yeehaw! Saddle up for the Sun-West Roundup. We're gonna ride, we're gonna ride. Bring your friends to the Sun-West Roundup. Grab your hat and shout, yeehaw! Get along to the Sun-West Roundup. We're gonna ride, we're gonna ride, we're gonna ride. We're gonna ride, we're gonna ride, we're gonna ride with Jesus Christ.
Good morning. That's a video that the Moons put out from our trip in to Thailand and the Vacation Bible School. And so I promised last Sunday that we give them a week to rest. And I don't see B and Amanda, unfortunately. I know Brenton, also known as B, might have had to work this weekend in Arizona, so it looks like that's the case. But anyway, I know Mike Frost is here and Linda Kelly, so we'll have them come up and share what the Lord impressed upon them during this trip. Unfortunately, both of them got sick, Linda first, and this bad congestion. There was a lot of smoke in Thailand because of their Thai New Year celebration and this Buddhist festival that they celebrate, and they burn everything, and then they douse the burning with water, and so we got squirted with or dumped buckets of water on us. Thailand air conditioning. It was 100 degrees there, and it got to Linda first and then Mike, and I think the rest of us so far have avoided it, but I feel a little congestion, but nothing like they've got. Anyway, who wants to go first?
I don't want to go first. I just whispered, I'm still waiting on the Spirit to lead. You go first, Linda. I didn't really prepare anything official, just wanted to share a few thoughts. It was such a cool experience. It was not an easy experience for me. It was exhausting. It was a lot of work. It definitely wasn't a vacation, although we did get to see, some of Thailand. But we had to squeeze that in around all the work that we were there to do. So it was really good to get out of my comfort zone of this nice little comfortable American life that I live, and go serve. And just by way of testimony, right after I committed to going on this Thailand, I feel like spiritual warfare started in February. In fact, I had a situation in my life that I was dealing with, and I went through, like a week before we went, we were on a Zoom call, and Vicki Moon, she reminded us, like, the enemy don't want you to come and serve here. Like be aware of spiritual warfare, be praying. And I know that, but it was a really good reminder. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think of that. And I actually went through my text and when this situation in my life happened, it was the week that I committed to my daughter and I going on this trip. And so it was a time that I had to really lean into the Lord. I fasted a couple days before we went, just because I was telling myself all the things that the enemy wanted me to know, that I shouldn't be going on this trip, and I couldn't leave work, and I couldn't leave my family. But God got us through it, took us there. I was honestly extremely homesick, not only for my family, but also just for... We live in a blessed place in this country. And I know there's a lot of division, but it's such a blessed place. And it was so cool to get out of this place, not for vacation, but to work and to serve selflessly. And that's what we did. We got picked up from the airport, and we were about 30 hours into our trip. Oh, they're here. Good. Sorry. Bringing attention to you guys. We're about 30 hours into our trip, and I think all of us just wanted to go back to the hotel, or check into the hotel and shower and change our clothes. And on our way there, Pastor Aaron was like, "Hey, we're going to the church," and I was like, "Oh, I just want to shower." And so we went to the church and dove right in, and we served for several hours before checking in and being able to refreshen. So it was really good just to be out of that comfort zone and serve in a way that I've never served before. Meaning, like, it's easy in our comfortable American lives to, like, live our Christian life on Sunday mornings and an occasional Wednesday services. And to go and to serve with the Moons, who were called from their comfortable American life into a ministry that is not easy, but it's impactful. And it's a very multicultural ministry. It's like the hub of, like, I wouldn't say we definitely weren't serving like the underground church in China, but it felt like we were an arm's length away as all. And to hear people's stories of them, leaving their country because they couldn't worship Jesus, super, super impactful to me, and just made me realize how lucky and blessed we are here, and how important the ministry is there. Thailand is a free country. They can serve, they can serve whatever they want to serve, and for those who serve King Jesus, it's a safe place for them to do that. I met a couple of the interns working there. They were from Myanmar, a country called Myanmar. And the first day we went to lunch with the pastor and a bunch of people from church. And Vicky, I began to ask, well, how did you end up in Thailand? And they were first called to a country called Myanmar. I don't have time to get into this story, but it was dangerous and it was crazy. And they said that they came to a point in their ministry where they were going to just continue to trust God until they were physically removed from the country, or until the Lord completely closed down the ministry, which ended up what happened, and which took them to Thailand. But I've never been in a place where I had to trust God in that way, like physically with my life. And then to meet some interns that are working there, 21 and 25. I talked to the one, and he was from Myanmar, and there's a whole story about Myanmar and how dangerous of a place it is. But there was a military coup that happened while they were all there. This military militia, I guess, took over the government, came in and one day arrested all the government officials, took over the country, and it was just bad. And he told me a story of, he joined the resistance to try to fight for his country against this military coup. And he said that they had a good plan, and they were walking in the streets to go, fight for their country. And all the guys on the front line had shields. And he said he was on the second line. And he said it was a very important job on the second line. We were to grab like all the gas bombs and the smoke bombs, Molotovs and all that stuff, and try to get rid of them out of the crowd. he was 17 when he decided to do that. But he said, what we weren't expecting is this one day they used guns. And he said, and we weren't prepared for it. And they started shooting at us into the crowd. I was running. Friends were dying to the left and the right. He escaped, made it home. The military coup then started going house to house. Somehow they knew pretty much everyone that was involved in the resistance. And so he was in danger of his life. They were going house to house killing the people that were against them. So his parents made him flee to the village of his father for safety. And he told me, he said, I always knew, in my mind, I went to a Baptist church there in Myanmar. He said, I was a Christian in my mind, but he said it was then in that village that I surrendered to God. And I just cried out to him and surrendered for the first time my heart. And he's like, I didn't know, what was the future held for me. Not much hope in that situation in a remote village. Remote village for sure. Like we were in top tier third world country, but it was a third world country. And this is a remote village in that. Anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm gonna finish up here. But soon after he just surrendered his heart to the Lord in that remote area, he got a message, and I don't remember how, if somebody actually came with the message or if he had cell service or what, but the Moons were working on getting people out of there, and they were able to sponsor him and send him to Bible college in the Philippines. And so they didn't know that they had just surrendered his heart. That he had just surrendered his heart to the Lord. He didn't know that they were working on getting him out of the country and sending him to Bible college. But he went. He's serving there at the church in Chiang Mai. I got to be careful because I've messed that up so many times. I said something to a lady at the airport, and she thought I said I was going to Chow Mein. So they've all been teasing me since. But anyway, so those are some of the things that just to get to know the people was my favorite part of it. And to hear those impactful stories and realize, man, Christianity is different. But on another note, like I said, I was going through some spiritual warfare. Friday, the day we got there, I volunteered to preach to the youth group, and I went to Matthew 14 where Jesus walks on water and calls Peter out of the boat to also walk on water. And as he's focused on Christ, he walks on water, and then he starts looking at the storm around him and begins to sink. And through the day that I was fasting, kind of preparing for the trip, trying to beat this spiritual warfare, the Lord took me to that message, really spoke to my own heart. And then as I began to focus on preparing a message for the youth of Thailand, it just that story kept, God made it clear that was the story he wanted them to hear too. And our first night, Friday, we were absolutely exhausted. Some of us went back to the church. I had to preach, and as we started that service, the very first song I believe that was played was that "Be Still" song that we just sang. Mm-hmm. It's the first time I believe Andy, and it's the first time I've ever heard it. But it was played, and it fit the message so good. And it was just a little personal testimony, me being in Thailand and God using just a song to remind me that He's in control. And it was super cool.
Amen.
So I got a lot more to say. You can catch me after the service or sometime in the coming weeks, and I can tell you more about it. As Andy said, Linda and I brought y'all a souvenir, the Thailand Gambu. If you want some sickness, come shake hands and hug, and we'll be glad to give it to you.
Thanks, Mike.
How do I follow that?
You just take the microphone.
I'm not good at expository speaking, not even public speaking, so I wrote some notes because my head is still kind of fuzzy from all this congestion too. But I have a verse I just wanted to start with, and that's part of 1 Samuel 15:22 says, to obey is better than sacrifice. And first, I just want to thank God and Jesus, who was and was with us and is every day for this amazing experience. Second, I want to thank all of you for your prayers and support and for our team and for me specifically. Third, as Mike mentioned, spiritual battles are real. And in Thailand, there are idols, temples, and what they call spirit houses everywhere. But these are not for our God. They are for the dark spirits. And they're everywhere. On every corner, you can't go down any little alleyway and not see them. Excuse me. With the first announcement of the opportunity for a potential VBS mission trip to Thailand, I felt an urging to go. But in my mind, there were so many obstacles. I prayed, and as happens when it is in alignment with God's will, all the apparent obstacles were dealt with. One by one, in His timing, including my husband having a major surgery and rehab, the financing for the trip, obligations for work, and my eyes are tearing, so I can't even read my notes. Rides to and from the airport, care of animals, plants and things at home, and my own medical issues, etc. It was and is a blessing to serve, learn, and be humbled in the things, including teaching VBS in front of Pastor Andy, no pressure, and climbing onto the back of an elephant. A few of many highlights for me include one of the Chinese helpers who assisted me at Sunday school, because I also taught Sunday school for the kids that Sunday. She expressed to me that what I said in the lesson helped her understand the Bible so much clearer. And just the excitement of all the kids to be at VBS learning. And one little boy who was in the front, when on the fourth day I mentioned it was our last day, he raised his hand with a question. He goes, I thought it was 5 days, because in the curriculum it is 5 days. And anyway, he was very disappointed that it was only going to be 4 days. So that was also a blessing. And then, and just a sideline of funny was one little boy at lunch. We kind of did a group lunch after all the kids left each day from VBS, and one little boy who was in my class was sitting next to me, and he said, I really enjoyed your lesson. And unbeknownst to me, his dad was sitting there, and he heard it, and his dad said, well, that's pretty impressive coming from a PK kid. I didn't realize that his dad was a pastor. Anyway, that was just a funny. The other thing, one of the students that Mike mentioned who had come from Myanmar, one of his favorite words was babushka, which is actually a Russian word for grandmother. But he would just randomly say babushka, and then I realized that I was the only babushka in our team, real babushka. So it was also a blessing because I know Andy probably rolled his eyes, but I had a large suitcase and I was able to bring various teaching supplies, treats, and decor for use at the church and VBS that I was able to leave there for them. And also help my teammates sometime with some timely medications. And despite some discomfort from the long travel times, a few mosquitoes, the heat, and poor air quality, we managed to assist God in many, and many were saved. the Moons told us that like 25 of the kids that following Sunday after VBS were saved and had asked to be baptized, and their families were coming to church, so it did make a difference. So lastly, I just want to leave you with a question. Where is God asking you to obey him? And it may be out of your comfort zone. So thank you.
Amen. Thanks, Linda.
Okay, so my mission in Thailand was a little different. I was in charge of crafts. Craft for 150 kids is quite the challenge. And let me tell you, after that first day, I learned a lot. Most importantly, 5 to 7-year-olds cannot be trusted with glue. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding, but for real. For me, it was very hectic, very overwhelming. I learned a lot. I kind of was a little jealous and left out, though, because all of the other members of the team, they got to be more like one-on-one with their groups. And it was so hectic in my little room. The kids were packed in there like sardines. We could barely move through the aisles. And so I never really got the chance to get to know a lot of the kids like I would have. And like this kind of weighed on me throughout the days. And so on the last day, because I had a lot of preparation for the next day, so once they left and I was done, I had to like prepare. But on the last day, I didn't have any preparation. So I was like, I'm gonna go downstairs where all the kids were and watch the little skit and like just watch them leave, because I hadn't been part of that the whole time. And so the last day when I went down, and like 150 kids is a lot of kids, and that place was full. But when Aaron did the altar call, and I just saw all these little kids just, praying their little hearts out, and just, it really, really touched me. And I just thought, like, this is why we're here. This is the whole reason we came. Whatever my own jealousy or, to know the kids.
Mine we made, and the whole floor was covered with gems, so try to keep 35, 7-year-olds busy trying to learn a lesson when everything around them is shiny. Not happening. She was very upset with us. They had bags, and their job was to scoop the gems as they could in their bag in the 35 minutes we were there, not pay attention to what she was telling them, which was fun. My whole experience was a blast. There was a group of kids behind me that was a little bit older, and they were part of it's called a Mango House. It's like a boarding house for a family. Can't afford take care of their kids, whether it was poverty or drugs, or this government just took their kids away from the families. So those kids were just there basically to learn about God, and they chose to be there. And when they did the altar call, the first time I ever seen kids that were probably 9 to 11 in tears praying for God, just happy they were saved. And that was a cool experience. I'd never seen that in my life. So that was about how it was for me.
I said a whole bunch of what I didn't intend to say, and I missed one thing that I wanted to say. So I thought I'd get up here real quick. But another thing that was just so impactful for me is just the people of the Calvary Refuge Church. It's Calvary Refuge Fellowship. But the servants there, the pastors, the people who serve there daily, it was a different experience for me. They did life together. It wasn't just ministry at church on Sundays. They did life together. And I've experienced that here at Grace. And I'm so thankful for it. But this was even next level, to the point where as we were finishing up our trip, I said to Vicky Moon, the pastor's wife, I just said, so what do you got planned when we leave? You guys must be exhausted too. And she said, yeah, when we drop you guys off at the airport, we're going to get in our pajamas and we're going to go watch The Sound of Music. And I thought, oh, that sounds relaxing. And then she started naming off all the church members that were coming as well. So they even rested together. But it felt a little bit like what we read in Acts, where these people are just not just serving at the church building together, but they're doing ministry by way of life together. And so that was very impactful to me, and will be my prayer here for those at Grace. And then the last thing I'll say is I hope he bawls his eyes out, because I don't know why me and the babushka was the only one that got emotional. Thanks, guys.
Wow. I hope you guys see just how impactful a missions trip is, and each one's unique, and you have some similar stories. And I mean, God's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He wants to reach the lost. There's 8 billion people plus in the world, and he loves each one of them. And he is the missionary God who came from heaven to earth to save us. And so my prayer is that each year we have some sort of missions trip, and that you are motivated and excited to go and serve. It is a lot of work, and I'm so thankful that each one said that, because we were exhausted. But there's a good kind of work, a good kind of exhaustion after you've worked hard and maybe exercised some muscles you didn't know you had, and were stretched in ways that you didn't know you could be stretched. And then there's that tired that comes from sitting on the couch and being a potato and binging some Netflix series, right? There's 2 different kinds of tired. And this is a good work, a good tired. And so, again, it couldn't have happened without your guys' support and prayers. And keep praying for that work in Chiang Mai and those lives that were impacted, and those that accepted Jesus for the first time. I could share a lot more things, and maybe I'll share over the next few weeks some little bits, but it's time to do some quick announcements and get the kids upstairs and take a short break and get into God's Word. But thank you guys for sharing. Hannah was also part of that. Was there anything you wanted to share, Hannah? I figured you'd come up if you did. Yeah, they were engaged and they were sharp. Like some of these 9, 10-year-olds knew 3 languages. And I'm like, I'm American, I know 1, and I don't even know English that well. It was humbling. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Hannah. They were engaged and really sharp.